Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you're all here. So what we're going to do today is slightly different than what just happened this morning. Can I see just a raise of hands of people who are on screen, of people that were here this morning?
Oops.
Nobody on screen. One person is on screen. Thank you for raising your hand. There's a couple of people on hand. This is going to be a session that's better if you're on screen, but if you're not, that's okay. And we're going to be unmuting at some points, but if it's too loud, you can stay muted. We'll be using the chat box, the chat function extensively here. And Andy's going to be helping us with chat. Do you want to say hi, Andy?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming.
So, yeah, this is not about me talking at you for an hour and 15 minutes. This is about me downloading some information that I've learned over the years, and then you owning it and using it and sharing it with each other and us all learning together. So on screen is helpful. We'll be using a lot of different methodologies to get through making Zoom work, such as utter chaos by having you guys all unmute and just be able to yell out something when you want to doing waterfalls where you like write something in and you wait until I say go, and then you push and we go and we get to see everything all at once, to polling. We're going to do hand stacking. If we can, not use the reactions button to raise hand, but hand stack in the chat. So make sure your chat is open. And Andy's going to be helping us with that. And if you can't actually speak up and you want to write something in chat, Andy is going to make sure that gets introduced to the conversation. And lastly, we're going to be doing breakout groups for a good long time where you guys can talk to each other, and then we're going to have a good long time to harvest afterwards. So I'm sure a lot of people will still continue to come in, but we're at a good number now. I think we can get started. My name is Harley K. Dubois, and I am one of your cultural founders. I created placement. I created a lot of what you experience at Burning Man, from placement to zoning to Earth Guardians. I fostered lamplighters. I made Playa Info, greeters, BMIR, a bunch of different things. So I've been around a long time, 34 years. And now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things I learned, and they're really about group dynamics and how people work together in a successful way. We're talking about authority and distribution, unseen stars, and group dynamics. Really, we're talking about how to maximize your people and potential in your camps. And there's some tried and true things. There's some repetitive things I've seen over the years. There's just some great concepts to think about, and that's what we're going to get into today. If you're the sort of person that like maybe doesn't want to give away a job to somebody else or to other people because you're afraid they're not going to do it right, or you don't really know how to find the right people to get into your camp, or you pick the right people, but it doesn't work out, this is a session for you. So we're going to talk primarily about three things. The first one is how we organize. I'm going to give you some concepts on how we organize. We're going to talk about what motivates people, particularly burners. And we're going to talk about roles, the roles that people play. So once again, I'm going to encourage you as you go through this session to at certain points, we're going to really want to look at the slide presentation, but at certain points, we're really going to want to look at each other. So, use your ability to see the speaker when they're speaking, and move that bar over so you can see the bubbles of all of our heads, as opposed to this particular screen when it's appropriate. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the archetypes of organizational dynamics. These are archetypes that we already know. You've lived them your whole life, but they apply differently when you apply them to a theme camp at Burning Man. So I'm going to show you an image, and I want you all to unmute at this point. Can you please unmute? And this image is going to come up slowly. And as you look at it, I want you to yell out what you think it is. And if you can't yell out and you just want to put it into the chat, please do. And Andy's going to pick it up for you and speak out your words for you. So again, this is a structure, an organizational structure that we're all very familiar with. What do you think this structure is?
Top-down hierarchy.
Hierarchy. Pyramid.
Hierarchy?
Org chart.
Family
Okay.
tree.
Flow
Great.
chart.
Nice. I'm calling this a startup. Or this is like the beginner camp. This is the 1 or 2 or 3 people, they get an idea and they come up with it, and then they get their friends to help them. And the beauty is that you can do it fast and easy, and you're doing it with your friends and you care for each other. The hard part is it puts a lot of the authority at the top and maybe doesn't distribute it, and it makes a bottleneck. So this could be a great tool for you, or it could be a problem for you. Maybe you've outgrown this model. So here's your next model. Tell me what you think this is.
Chain of command.
Yep.
Family tree.
Family tree list.
Bigger family tree.
Distributed leadership.
Yeah, this is your 1950s sort of standard how you make things grow. And it's a great way to make things grow in a theme camp, in any kind of camp. It's a way of vetting new people. So not giving them too much authority all at one time, but letting them try on something smaller and then sort of climb their way up. It's a great way to organize people often in different areas so that they're not all going to one person or all stepping on each other's toes. It's also hierarchical, and some people aren't really happy with hierarchy at Burning Man. So this is a typical seasoned camp. A lot of people organize like this. This one's a little harder, but you guys are creative.
Peers before the object.
Say that again?
Peers before the object.
Oh, I like that. That's beautiful.
It's not mine, but
Yeah, that's great. This is the way a lot of learning institutions are set up. It's also the way a complex village or a hub is set up frequently. So each one of these heads could be an individual, or it could be its own theme camp. It could be a group leadership, but they all have to get their same resources. They're coming from the same resources. So there's competition, perhaps, between, getting into the kitchen or getting set up first or getting the power you need. So there's a lot of strengths to this, in that you can have your individual thing going on, and a lot of savings to be working out of the same resources, but it has some built-in difficulties in the dynamic, which is they're surmountable if you're aware of them. If you're not aware of them, it'll just be frustrating. So this is the last sort of organizational model we're going to bring up and discuss. If you think you know what it is, just speak it out.
Council.
Yeah,
Well, it's going to be a pentagram.
it is. These are lines of communications in between individuals or camps or group dynamics that are individually just fabulous at what they do. They're just the best of the best. But when they do it by themselves, the one person's good at setup, one person's good at kitchen, one person's good at layout, but they're not talking to each other. And that can cause huge breakdowns. But if everybody's speaking to everybody else, everybody gets better. This is when Burning Man's at its best. This is something you see that happens after disasters and communities come together when there's been a flood and everybody takes care of everybody. But when the flood's gone, it stops. But we can do this. And that's why it's kind of great for Burning Man, because we only have to do it for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks out of the year, right? It's a great model. It's really, in some ways, the best to my mind. So I shared these with you just to start having you start to think about how you are organized and how you maybe have outgrown your organizational development, or how you might like to change it or move on from it or upgrade it or adopt this. Just, it's food for thought. So now we're going to move to the second part of my information download to you, and that was motivation. What motivates people? Intrinsic motivation. You guys can just read that. And this is like when you come home from work and your heart is filled. Your body is tired, but your heart is filled. That's what intrinsic motivation is to me. Okay, let's extrinsic motivation. Let's take a look at that. Somebody's doing it for the t-shirt. Someone's doing it for the ticket and the pass in. Someone's doing it because they want the meals. I mean, that's the kind of thing we could see at Burning Man. What I'd love for you to do right now is in the chat, go ahead and write down whether most of your camp is intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated. And when I say 3, just push the button and let's see what comes through. Intrinsic or extrinsic? 1, 2, 3. Andy, I'm gonna need your feedback because I can't see the chat.
Looks like we're getting a lot of half and half, a lot of intrinsic. I'd say we've got about 7 intrinsics, 4 half and halves. Extrinsic, 1. Interesting that so many are intrinsic.
I'm sort of relieved to hear that. I was hoping that mostly was intrinsic. Because I mean, honestly, most people that really get into Burning Man are intrinsically motivated because Lord knows nobody can pay us enough to do this. And Lord knows we put so much money into it that we just do because we love it. So I would be surprised if it was more extrinsic. And if it is extrinsic, that's worth really looking at. Like if your whole camp is extrinsically motivated, that's a good thing to ponder with your camp. And if everything's intrinsically motivated, then you know that you have to operate differently as a leader or somebody that is managing something in a camp, because if you're intrinsically motivated, you are doing it because you're passionate and you care. And if somebody gives you a line of bullshit or somebody says, because I said so, you're like, I'm out of here. Like you have to be engaged. So you have to work with people differently that are intrinsically motivated than extrinsically, because extrinsically is the way most of us do our jobs in the default world. So there's a different way of thinking that comes along with working with intrinsically motivated people that's worth spending time on. I'm just sort of bringing it up as a concept for you to ponder right now, because we will have a chance to ponder it together as we get to our breakout groups later on. So now we'll move to our third part. This will be the longest. We're going to talk about roles. So formal roles. This is another point where I'd like you to just yell out the roles that you know of for your camp. That's like somebody who does the scheduling, somebody who does the kitchen, whatever the roles are for your camp, somebody who does the setup. And then we'll compare them to the ones that I've written down here. So just go ahead and just say them.
TCO, comms,
Yeah.
sustainability, leave no trace.
Frontage lead, MOOP lead, transportation lead.
Logistics, budget,
Accountant,
Power.
beautification,
All right.
filtration.
I think we're both, the organization is on the same page with you. So these are the ones that I had placement give to me as things that they look at regularly. And maybe the words are slightly different, but it's pretty much the same list. So we know what formal roles are. It's informal roles I want us to spend some time on. This is something that I bet if you have been doing this a while and you're still doing it, you know about, and you might not know about it explicitly, but you know about it. You've internalized it. So we're going to play another guessing game. And I want people to go ahead and say what they think this image is in terms of an informal roles. So informal roles are when you've been hired to do L&T, you've been hired to do setup. But when you get in that group dynamic and you're all working together, sometimes you find yourself sort of advocating for a person or an individual, or you feel like it's really important that people do a better job communicating with each other. So you become the person who asks people to communicate with each other, or you feel like something that has to get done needs to get done. And so you just take it on and you just do it. No one's asked you to do it. You just do it because it needs to get done in that group dynamic. So I'm going to show you a picture and you just tell me what you think it is. Here we go.
It's a group.
Here's our first picture.
Morale builder.
What else? What do you think the overall overarching name person might be? Say it again.
That's squad.
Your leader.
All good. This is the cheerleader. So this is the person who just makes sure everybody feels welcome, that they can find their place, that they get encouraged. Maybe the person that, in bad meetings or picks the meeting up and makes it go more happy and fun. And now this is my learning from over the years. You might have your own. I'm going to show you 7 of these and then think about it. Maybe you have different ones. I've done this in different countries, and different countries have different ones. So here's your next one.
Dependable Dave.
Yes, for sure.
Hercules.
This is the
Leader.
person who sets the pace for your team. This is the person who says, this is the way we do it. This is how fast we go. This is why we do it that way. Come on, you guys, let's do it all together.
It's D.
Okay, here's your next one.
Peacemaker.
Ah, great.
Camp Snoogle.
That's great.
Community
Wow.
builder,
Yeah, that's right.
nurturer.
This is your mediator. This is the person who says, I know you guys had a really stupid fight, but would you please fix it now because you can just get over it and we can move on. Or this is really important and we need to talk about it. Okay, next. No
Director.
guesses?
Institutional knowledge.
Yes. There you go.
Talk.
Yeah, the team identity is important. This is the person that's going to take your new people and kind of let them know what they walked into, like how this group of people works together. They definitely have the stories of old. They document, but they really help the new people come on board, and they also help us remember why we're doing what we're doing. If you imagine more wires and more like headsets on this person, they'll go a little better. When I got this image in black and white, I took a Sharpie and added some more wires and goobers and gobbers on him.
MacGyver.
Yes,
MacGyver,
MacGyver's
yeah.
Technician.
great. Yes. This is our geek. Every team needs a geek, don't they? Like, you just can't get by if somebody doesn't take on that role. Something else. Everybody needs this.
Project manager.
Yeah. You know, a lot of teams are small enough that they don't need a bean counter, but everybody needs a bean counter. Everyone needs to keep track of the spreadsheets. And then we're down to our last one.
Get off my lawn. It was better.
Grumpy
It
old,
was better next year.
grumpy old burner.
Contrarian.
Yeah, that's me.
Just all of Thunderdome.
So the tire kicker is the one people love to hate because it's the pain in the ass in the room who brings up all the questions and keeps driving you back to the point you don't care about anyway. But this person actually makes you make better decisions. They challenge you in a way that makes everybody sort of come together and say, okay, you got a point, and nobody else is thinking about it. So let's take that on. All right. So now we're going to take a minute and we're going to get into some polling. Here they all are in front of you. And we'll take some polling in just a second, but I'd like to ask if you guys have any questions that can explain this further. So let me say once again, you were hired onto, you were brought into, you probably weren't hired, you were probably brought into or stepped up into a plate of some formal role. And then you're in this group dynamic and you take on one of these roles at one point, or maybe you take on different ones at different times, but somehow everybody steps into a role like this. And if you have them all, you have a really tight team. So this is operating like underneath the hood while you're doing your formal roles. And if you say it's not happening, then you're not paying attention. This is the key to making a really good team, is knowing that both of these things are happening at the same time. Again, this is my experience. Yours might be different, and we're going to have a chance to talk about that. So for a second, we're going to do 5 polls on these characters, and you're going to be picking which character or archetype answers this question. Here are my questions. Okay. Which archetype do you like the best? There's your poll. And then we're going to see the percentages here. Coming in, coming in. So far, nobody likes a tire kicker. Has everybody finished? So if you're in a room, you'd see each other's faces and see who stood by what, and you'd start to learn about each other. We don't have that opportunity here on Zoom. So what I'm going to do instead is we're going to have a conversation about why. Why do you like this archetype the best? Let's go ahead and shout it out.
I like the cheerleader because they can make go-getters.
Yep.
They can cause go-getters to be.
I feel like the storytellers are the culture carriers and they help drive what motivates. I'm very much about peers before the object, and I feel like the storyteller kind of holds that story and purpose, and that people kind of form around it.
Beautiful. Love that.
To follow up with that, and people come in with different energies, but the storyteller can help them identify what they are because of
Yes.
all the experiences that they have with these same characters in different people.
Yes.
It's also nice to have a camp full of go-getters, people that just want to get the common stuff done for everybody's benefit.
Yeah, the go-getters can kind of whip people along with them and sort of create momentum.
I so wanted to pick the go-getter, but I was like, my favorite or the most useful? And Harley said the favorite, and I was like, nope, I'm
Yeah, I like the go-getters the best because even my own energy of get up and go is strongest in the bean counting realm. So I feel like I personally resonate with all the rest the best, and I like the go-getters best because I know I really need them.
Who picked the
And he's
geeks?
gonna have that physical energy.
Can somebody speak to the geek? Nope. All right.
If I
That's
could
okay.
vote, I would have for them.
Yeah, I can speak to the geek.
Go for it.
But can
Oh, we're breaking up. I'm sorry, you're breaking up. All right, let's move on to the next question. So let's pull down this poll and we'll put the next one up. Which archetype are you lacking in your team? And we'll put the poll up. Which archetype are you lacking in your team? Different numbers coming in. Looks like everyone's got go-getters. Interesting. Still coming in. Okay, let's speak to why. Why are you lacking this person or this archetype?
I mean, I'll just say like bean counter had a 0% on the last one. And I think nobody really wants to do it. It's dull. It's the boring part.
It also takes really getting out ahead of it. Everyone has to be communicating everything to the bean counter when a lot of times adjustments are made on the fly, and the bean counter, if they existed, would be very frustrated.
I think I'm in an area that doesn't really have a lot of people that know what Burning Man is right now. And I'm kind of leading that charge here. And so there's not enough people to be a cheerleader to kind of like be proactive about the conversation, even though there's people here who have done burns, go to burns, we know regional burns and all that stuff, but they're all old hat as well. So they're not as shouting it from the rooftops kind of person or encouraging others to be involved.
The last time I did this, I heard the same thing about the storyteller. Someone said, like, we have a new team, so how can we have a storyteller? And we all sort of brainstormed together and realized that you're all sort of the storytellers then because you're creating your own reality. So somebody might be the person who sort of encapsulates it for everybody, but everybody together is the storyteller. So these things can take different forms. So we finally got some tire kickers on this one. Who would like to speak to lacking tire kickers? It seems like everybody has a tire kicker.
You could always borrow them.
I would say because my camp, we're a new camp, so we don't really have anyone that's like a negative Nancy or like going against. Like we're just trying to come up with ideas currently. So there's, yeah.
That's great. And I'll
We
say
were a pretty harmonious group. We didn't really need a tire kicker. Everybody just kind of got along and everybody had the same vision.
so let me color it slightly differently and say, let's just take the steam off his head and drop his shoulders down a little bit and say the thoughtful person who asks the hard questions. Okay.
There really weren't any hard questions. Again, we planned so well.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome. Okay, let's go on to the third poll. So we'll take down number 2 and let's bring up number 3. Which tire kicker do you like the least? I'm sorry. Which archetype do you like the least? Wow. All right. Question is why?
Personally,
It's
because
really
I'm
hard.
pizza, I didn't like the bean counter, and I'm not good with numbers, so that's why I didn't like that one.
Let's try to think about the perspective of your entire camp. And I cut somebody off. Who would like to go?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I put the cheerleader because I interpreted it as like, what personality type do I sometimes bristle at? And sometimes I feel like there's people who are like, come on, guys, let's go, instead of just doing the thing, just do it,
We have similar answers, you and I. I said cheerleader as well because I think sometimes it can ring false and people can get frustrated and like, this is just performative, they're not actually doing anything. Here I am mediating or solving problems or, bringing history. So I think they can get under people's skin.
And let's just say the person really was exactly like that and was like true from the heart, even though they were annoying.
I mean, yeah, we had to pick one. I mean, I kind of want them all.
It's great. I'm just trying to like kind of add more depth to it.
I had a tire kicker that went full rogue and was just doing things contrary and working against us at a certain point, even though they were still within the fold. So that kind of, that was extreme end of tire kicking.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I picked the go-getter, because they'll just run off and do something without involving everyone in doing that thing.
Yeah.
But to Harley's point, I think it depends on their motivation, right? It's like I picked cheerleader because it's a personality type I don't necessarily vibe with, but like intent is key. And I watch really carefully like who's motivated by getting the thing done and who's motivated by being seen as getting the thing done. Yeah. And they're vastly different personality types. And so the go-getter, I've met people who look like go-getters who actually just want to be seen as working, similar with their tire kickers, but there's the good and evil representation of each one of these, I think.
Yeah, these are full human beings with all sides. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this is number 4. Which archetype do you relate to the best? You personally, which one do you relate to the best?
Can I ask, Harley, is that relate, like if it were another person and we're relating to them really well, or we think we are that thing the most?
I intended it as we think we are that thing, but you can interpret it however you want.
Okay.
All right, the big question is why?
Are we jumping in?
Yep.
I feel like I do a little bit of all of this, but the thing that for which people come to me the most is mediation, and my strongest skill set is in the mediation of all of these, I think.
I'll just finish with mediation or continue with mediation. We call our people doers because everyone's got this like passion about their area. And I think often the role is to sort of just keep directing and making sure everyone's working in sync. Mediation.
It sounds like some of you younger camps, I'm not sure whether your camp is younger or older, but it sounds like some of these younger camps have kind of got it all going on. Maybe that's years of history before you. Okay, let's come to the last one. Are you more than one of these archetypes? So this is a yes or no. Are you more than one of these? Oh, actually, this is you can pick as many as you want. This is you can pick as many as you want. It's funny watching them shift around, but it looks like a lot of people are doing a lot of informal roles. So the question that goes along with this one, and if you guys, there's a lot of people online that are not speaking up. If you'd like to speak up, please join us. And if you don't want to, you can write something in the chat and we'll have Andy read it out for us. So are you more than one of these archetypes? Please put them all down. It looks like a lot of people are a lot of archetypes. What does this mean?
Are we open to talk?
Yep.
Really? Yeah. I clicked everyone, but that's 27 years of going to Burning Man and 22 of running a camp. I've had to wear all those hats. To succession on a camp, to be camp fairy godmother and be the tire kicker and watching the bean counter and then kicking the bean counter's tire and then kicking the nards on the acculturation side of it and then playing Pollyanna cheerleader from a distance. All of it. 27 years. I don't know.
That's super cool.
I think we just need to, or we have to assume different positions depending on the situation at hand or whatever opportunities available, whether it's something challenging or something to look forward to, you know, whatever your personality suits itself towards, you kind of have to show up in a different manner.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 6 cultural founders, 5 of us are alive. I'm one of them. And the 6 of us, we're not nearly as smart as all of the employees that we've hired at Burning Man now, over 160 employees, and are not nearly as smart as a lot of you guys on this call right now. But the thing we got good at was working together as a team with 6 people, and we all would swap these roles all the time. And when you get all these roles going together, you can make some pretty good decisions because you have checks and balances. You have ways of cooling it down if it's getting too hot. You have someone who's going to document. You have someone who says, we're not going fast enough. We got to make this decision. Let's get it done. And it was really helpful for us to learn how to do that. That's how we got as far as we did. And now you guys are kind of taking it all over. But I found these roles to be very beneficial as we swapped them in that group dynamic.
I have a question for you about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, as a group, you 6 people were pretty remarkably successful. When I read about your history, you guys just started out as a bunch of hippies, right? How did you get from just a bunch of hippies to people with enough EQ to swap these roles? And I assume you had a bunch of growing pains. Well, how did you sort of navigate those early growing pains?
Yeah, I mean, in 34 years, and I'd say I had like 28 years of growing pains. It was never easy to get this thing done. We were intrinsically motivated. We just all cared so much that we weren't willing to drop the ball. And when we hated each other, or someone loved somebody and hated somebody else, and not just 6 of us, beyond that, you know, like we got over it because we simply had to, because it was more important to have this crazy thing that seemed to be really important to a lot of people, and ourselves included, but we couldn't understand why. We had to get over ourselves. So we learned these skills and a lot of other skills and made good decisions and knew when to give up our role to somebody else so that they could do better without ego. A lot of putting the ego beside and like really listening to what was going on and letting it unfold in a healthy way as opposed to an unhealthy way. And those are hard decisions. What's healthy and what's unhealthy. But luckily, this thing only happens for, a week out of the year, and you have the rest of the year to reflect. So if we made a bad decision one time, we could rectify it. The stakes have gotten higher as we've gotten bigger. In the earlier days, it was easier to make mistakes and get over them. But smaller theme camps have plenty of room to make mistakes without having the stakes be that high. So you're very much in the same position as we were when we made this all happen.
Harley, in the chat, Jason had a question for you. Who was primarily the tire kicker?
We were all tire kickers at different times, for sure. I was a tire kicker a lot. Marion was a tire kicker a lot. And I'd say Larry was a tire kicker a lot. And Michael was a good tire kicker. Less so Crimson and Will, but yeah, all of us. We all swapped these roles.
Harley Dubois.
Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Oh, I have to click into this.
She's doing a good job.
Okay, so did you notice that there wasn't a leader there? There was not a leader archetype. Why do you think that was?
They're all leaders in their own way.
True.
I think because it's more about working as a team and everyone kind of taking responsibility for the role that they play.
Yeah.
And being their own leader in a way.
I was just talking with a co-lead of mine. We have a 4-lead structure at our camp. And we're talking about how really we're all parts of a bigger whole. So.
Exactly.
So
at
our camp, we're like 4 years old. We're a big camp. We're the fluffy cloud. We started with a leader, and some of us, like speaking of the archetypes, some of us naturally fell into some of the archetypes, and we had to kind of restructure and like influence the leader to let us restructure. And now we work a lot better.
That's great. So, I agree with everything everybody just said. When everything's humming and you've got your formal roles and your informal roles working together, you don't need a leader. You don't have to have one. If you had somebody like you did, like your charismatic leader who's at the top, who's like the person everybody goes to, and you lose them, you can lose them if you have all those other things in place, because it's going to hum anyway. So my question to you is, why do you need a leader? What would, if you have a well-oiled machine, what does a leader bring to it? Why do you need one?
I was just about to type this in the chat, like someone who's holding like the grand vision of the master plan or whatever it is. Like if like a big art piece is going to need someone who has the full picture in their head.
Yeah, they can help make the decisions faster because you've given them the role, so they can help like streamline things for you, or they can see the bigger picture. Like you can see it too, but that's their role, is to have that in their thinking all the time. Valkyrie, can we do that poll here? I have a poll. I wanted to know. I might have to go back to this slide. She'll let me know. But I would like to know how many of you are leaders. Is that everybody? There we go. Got a couple more coming in. So let's say you then, so we have mostly leaders. That's what I expected. And I bet you that people that don't think you are leaders because you're here. You just haven't accepted that role yet. That's my humble opinion. I've had a lot of people say, no, I can't be in charge. I'm like, you're already doing the job. Just take the title. So what happens when you walk into a situation where it's not running well, and you have come in with those leadership skills and you know you can do it? How do you get people to listen to you?
You listen to them first.
Yep.
With results, I believe. Like I'll do it myself. I'm not going to do anything that I don't expect anybody else to do.
You're earning the street creds.
Yeah, exactly.
So from my experience, the only way to really become a leader is to earn people's trust. How does one earn trust? One way is to actually do it yourself and show you can do it. How else do we earn trust?
One way is by, I heard someone once say, a leader say one time that you want to be micro interested, you don't want to be micromanaging.
Yeah.
Point
that's
being
cool.
that you get to know everybody's thing that they're working on and show them that you know what they're doing and you're watching without judgment.
Yeah,
Then when you have to
listening.
make a decision, you've got people that are listening.
Yeah, listening, judgment, showing good judgment and listening to them. Yes, absolutely.
Not being reactive when you get the first piece of information.
Okay, we're running a little bit short on time, and I want to give us enough time to go into breakout groups. So I just dumped a whole bunch of information on you, and I want to give you time to discuss it. So we're going to put you into breakout groups of 2 to 3 people so that you can kind of get into it. We're going to give you 15 minutes, maybe 13 minutes for discussion. We'll give you 15 minutes for discussion. And then, so make sure you give each other equal time, but think about all these things together. Think about where you are right now with your group. Like, where does this apply or not apply? Where is this beneficial or not? Or what have you gleaned from this way of thinking that might benefit you moving forward or not? And then when we'll come back, we're going to harvest that information. And then we're going to wrap it up. We'll take as much time to harvest as well. So I'll try to give that another, 13 to 15 minutes, and then we'll say a quick goodbye. This is all being recorded because this content is one that we want to put onto Hive into a training on Hive. So we're recording it, and everything you've told us is going to be part of how we distill this down. So when you go into your breakout groups, please do think about the fact that we're going to try to get the really important stuff coming out of this back onto that recording so that we can translate it for other people moving forward into the future. So 15 minutes and 15 minutes, think about how you're going to report out. And I think we're ready to put you into groups. I hope you have fun. All right, it's time to talk about what happened. Who would like to share what was discussed in their breakout?
All right, I'll go. I'll jump on the.
Thank you.
Well, what I found was I was talking to Ange and Dude, who had to take off.
Hey, wait, so before
but
you start, can you tell us what the name of your theme camp is and like how many
yes.
years, how long your theme camp's been around?
Okay, yeah, I'm from the Burning Globe. We're a very loosely Shakespeare-themed burning theater camp, and very loosely Shakespeare-themed. And we've been around since 2015, I believe, or 2016. I wasn't there when it was founded. And we do theater. We do theater on Playa,
Nice.
and workshops like stage combat and improv, clowning, that kind of thing. But what we were finding what I was noticing about the two folks I was talking to, Ange and Zoot, was just that, Ange, your group, if you don't mind me sharing,
No, not at all.
is all folks who are sober and folks who are looking for that kind of support on Playa. And then Zoot is from like a bondage camp. And so like what I was observing is like, and they both are saying things tend to flow really easily. But part of that is like, I was theorizing, like, is it partially because we're coming from a similar kind of like philosophy background, worldview? Certain things can be agreed upon fairly easily. That is not the case in my camp. There's a lot of different life backgrounds represented there, which is great, but it's messy.
Did you find any of the stuff we talked about today helpful in thinking through your camp?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I recognized each and every one of those archetypes in specific people in my camp, and fortunately, a lot of them are involved in planning this year. So, it's just a question of getting Burning Man for them to be something they think about in March and not something they think about in July.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Who else would like to go?
I'll go. I'm Ariel, Vertical Camp. Been doing the camp since 2005, but only 8 times. So off and on different things. But Vertical is a residential experiment. We live in a high rise and work together. And since we're efficient, we've grown to do a lot more art support and build like a community around it. I thought the informal roles were really an interesting way of sort of connecting with people. With a large group of people, it's nice to be able to warmly introduce them. And we haven't all been together by any stretch, but there's small groups within who have relationships with each other. And I thought by using those as ways of recommending people to the group, this WhatsApp, we are trying to get people more engaged earlier, because the longer they're talking to each other, the more effective we all communicate out there. But introducing people as like a mediator, or calling out certain characteristics of them. So that's maybe what people have in their mind and come to each other a bit more organically seems like a really nice opportunity.
Yeah, just to play devil's advocate, I completely agree with you, and I can see that in the theme camp settings. There have been some settings where I've seen people decide that it's best not to share what they think somebody else is, because somebody else might not like it, or then they might feel like they have to do it and they don't really want to do it. Like, so there's just that other side of it to consider, but that's a personal decision. Who else? And by the way, there's some superstar theme camps here. Thank you guys for showing up.
Guess I'll go. Candice Love, formerly Candy Ass, now known as Trigger Warning. Been 97 going to Burning Man with a group of friends. Informally at that time wasn't a theme camp, which became Funk Camp, Fandango. Funk Camp went on into the default world, and we launched what is now known as the Blue Man Group from our time on Playa.
Oh.
I don't know if you knew that, Harley.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, that's an accidental trip. Came the Blue
Things
Man
happen at Burning Man, don't they? They turn into
Yep.
other things.
Yeah. So, and then for years, we were the Blissfits Retirement Village. Myself and my festival wife, Ranger Shiho, ran a camp. We did not come back after the pandemic, successioned on the camp, but I'm here kind of taking lead as the camp is in hot water and moving towards a different leadership structure, and somebody needs to grab the reins and plug the hole and clean up a mess. So I'm back.
Wow.
This has been great because I'm trying to figure out a lot of how I was able to succession and hand over was to allow people to figure out where their strong suit was, to not say you're this and you're that. Being like a tire kicker and a beam counter, I've kind of empowered people to like hold the reins and do those things, but not sure what to do with the structure now. So this has been helpful.
Well, I will say that all of this stuff is really helpful for succession planning. Once you kind of get it under your belt, like what works for you, what doesn't, it really helps with succession planning. So I'm sorry you're coming back in, but I'm glad you got out for a little while.
I never really went away because I don't know if Sander's still here. We launched the Burner Network.
Yeah.
Where we were raising money to help camps.
Yes, you've been so helpful.
Yeah. So
thank you for all your contributions.
Yeah. I'll never stop being part of the community. But at this point, I wish I was coming back to the table on a better pretense.
We only have a couple minutes left. Who else would like to share? Maybe some of the newer camps? Maybe somebody who hasn't shared before?
Okay, well, I'm the ambassador. I'm the theme camp organizer for Metropolis. We had our first experience in 2010, 21 artists, 21 days, also in the Burning Man on a 60-foot bus. We camped with Giggsville and Dan fucking Texans. Then we came back and camped with them again. The bus broke down, and then I was the only one that would keep on coming. So in 2014, after a series of misfortunate incidents, we had a 100 by 150 foot square space on 3 and A, and it was a camp of one. So I had not been to Burning Man as a theme camp since. So this year, or this past few years, I've been doing a project to bring Chicanx community out from San Antonio out to Burning Man, after having worked with Build a Seat and being a artist for the Build a Seat table. So now I'm bringing Chicano artists and Chicano people out. And so, thank you. So part of the conversation that we were having is seeing that where maybe some of those energies aren't present, and as far as roles in the community to kind of like, because I can see myself as a storyteller, as I just told you a story, and I tell that same story to everybody that participates. But at the same time, I don't have a lot of the cheerleader, a lot of the go-getters that will come and get the community here kind of really active and really kind of excited about that. Even though we're looking at doing a project, we take a theme camp this year and an art project next year. So I can see how, where even if I don't find someone to particularly manifest that energy, that really is that energy, maybe I myself can then be a little bit more of that energy and put a little bit more energy towards that to be able to help fill in the gaps currently until more people come in that are excited about the project.
Beautiful.
And then,
Thank you for.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish up.
Oh, and then we were talking to Sparkplug and Andy about how, when you were taking on one of those roles, how do you pass that on to the next person, like a bean counter, especially if you like it doing it a certain way and it's a certain particular. So a little bit on the succession part and how maybe how onboarding is a part of that, how we can implement tools to keep that going.
Well, I wish we had time for more people to share out. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, as these things usually tend to do. But that's a great segue into just sort of looking at the thing overall, what we just did here. We started off talking about how we organize. And so I brought up those organizational archetypes, and some of them might be useful for you. Like maybe you've outgrown the sort of the startup and you need to like start expanding out into different areas and vetting people to come up to help, that get brought up in the culture of whatever your camp is. So please use those to your advantage. We talked about motivations and the importance of intrinsic motivations, understanding it and respecting it and honoring intrinsic motivation with honesty and forthright, honest communications. And then we talked about roles, and most people know what roles are, but those informal roles really do play. So just a quick reminder before we end. I honor you giving me, all 22 of you, giving me your time for an hour and 15 minutes on your Saturday. And we would not have, this is what I think. I think we can have Burning Man without art. I don't think we can have Burning Man without camps. Art came later, camps came first. So to me, you're the fabric, you're the heart and soul of what Burning Man's really all about. So thank you, thank you, thank you for giving us everything that you've given. And don't think you're unappreciated. I actually started theme camps in 1995, and I did my first theme camp last year, and I'm doing it again this year. So now I know exactly what you guys do. So thank you for your time. And it's really nice to see some of you superstars. And I loved hearing about all those new camps that are just sort of figuring this out. And I hope it's useful for you. And have a great rest of your Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Later, everyone.
Thanks all.